We are living during a critical time on this earth, and we're witnessing how important our connection is to our bodies and our spirits, our planet, and one another.
And we're recognizing that to stand in our truth means honoring the full spectrum of our emotional human experience.
We're seeking answers in all the stories and medicine that will support us and guide us as we create the safety we need to face our fears and to feel our feels.
And we cannot do this alone. Community, connection, and compassion are at the heart of our collective healing.
I'm Ellen, a breathwork and medicine companion and creator of Trip with Ellen.
And I'm Sam, an integrative energy therapist and creator of involution healing. Welcome. Journey with us.
This is Woo New.
A tremendous force of light is gathering around you. It is attracted to the purity of your intention to create from your heart for the betterment of all. As your intention grows, so does the light. And as the light grows, so do your divine collaborations. Magic wants to happen for you now. The synchronicity, the opportunities, the information that are needed will seem to be drawn right to your door. You may start to feel as if you cannot walk outside without stumbling into something helpful, wondrous, and inspiring. You might be startled at this interplay of light with your heart, which may evoke new successes, but also the sticky in-betweens and the attraction of opportunities that feel like they're pooling outside of your vision for even what you thought was possible. It is best to stay focused in right relationship with those who are on the path for greater awakening for all. If you're not sure what this means or how it would look on a practical level, consider what kind of dynamics you are cultivating right at this very moment in time. Sometimes success can be like a powerful mirror and a shining searchlight as it shows up what was already within you and is now being shared with the world outside of you. And then it goes on to say, this oracle brings an assurance of success of the highest order, not just commercially, but from the heart. It will manifest as a highly valuable offering to the world. This applies to a project, a collaboration, an endeavor in which you are involved. Your heart and all of your support systems, both seen and unseen, will help you realize all that you are manifesting for this world in this moment in time. Just stay in your self-assuredness that the gifts, the wisdoms, and the medicines that are yours, that are being channeled through you, are meant to be shared in this precise moment. And so it is.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, could you just never stop reading? It's so magical.
I felt every word. It just
Yeah.
felt so like, what I was sharing with Sam was that, like, this Costa Rica retreat feels kind of like a culmination of the last 5 years, ever since she and I, left our agency life, our corporate life, and began this journey of what we didn't know then was just this like healing, like self-healing journey. And we were kind of brought into it through this desire to create a self-care company for professional women at the time. And
it feels like such a different lifetime.
it was a different lifetime. It was like, 5 years ago feels like 5 decades ago or even longer. And so as part of our first exercise, to like bring in this new life, we went to Joshua Tree for 5 days and just sat and talked and walked and just ideated, like kind of poured our hearts out in terms of like what it is, like what kind of life do we want to create. And it wasn't even so much about, I know we spent some time talking about the company we wanted to create, but it was like, whoa, if we had all the resources in the world, like what do we want for our lives, And because I think we were both feeling so imprisoned by our previous life. And so part of it, both of our lists was like to travel more and to be able to, be of service in some way. And like, so this retreat feels very much like, oh my God, it's happening. But, and I had to take a moment this week just to celebrate this arrival. Even as you're reading, it's like what I've been feeling today very, very strongly. And even like the days leading up to today, it's been this sort of like a groundedness in, and I don't want to say I'm not excited. It's like I am very excited because we've been working and kind of moving towards this direction. But before, I feel like I would have like, it's almost like blown my wad almost like on this retreat. It's like everything, it's like, oh my God, it's happening. And like, like this expenditure of energy, just like, and this time, and I felt this way about the release of my album this week too. Like this time it feels like, okay, this is great. We're moving ahead, and what's next? You know what I mean? It's kind of like I feel more in my body about it. I feel more like I'm already looking to the week after the retreat of like when I come back and the things that I need to kind of focus on. And so while it like feels like an arrival and a celebration, there's also this like new groundedness in my body where I'm learning how to conserve and work with the energy and not like have it explode out of me, where then I would suddenly feel this like dip. Do you know what I mean? And so what you were reading, it just feels, God, it feels so resonant to that.
Can I ask you something, Ellen? And if you feel comfortable, maybe starting off by closing your eyes. But if I were to ask you, this energy that you're describing, this self-assuredness, this sense of groundedness, how would you describe how that energy feels in your body? It could take on a specific shape, a color. It could be unnameable, ungraspable. But if you were to sit for a couple moments and sit with that energy, how would you describe it?
So immediately I felt it in my heart. And it's not this like, kind of like expansive. It feels like a sinking in, a deepening. And then immediately after I noticed feeling it in my heart, I felt it in the soles of my feet. I felt this sort of like, it feels like buzzing now. It feels like buzzing and almost like energetic threads like connected to the earth. It's so interesting because usually I feel most of it just like here, but immediately it's like the energy took me right down to my feet and it feels like secure. It feels like I'm fully supported by the earth. I'm fully connected to the earth, and that her energy is like, it's like kind of transferring between us. You know what I mean? It's like, but through the feet. It's really fascinating.
I'm feeling that with you. And that's the beauty of calling it in and sharing the experience of it. Is in doing so, you're sharing that energy itself. And suddenly the soles of my feet are tingling that much more. And I'm feeling that much more connected to not only you, but to the celebration of this culmination. Like how often do we get to celebrate from the outside looking in? And when I say outside, I don't mean perception. I mean that experience of witnessing ourselves without considering, even for just a brief second, what it took to get there, but simply where we are at as an interconnected point between all. And by tapping into that energy, that infiniteness of that energy, we get to see where it's actually going and maybe where we want to call it back, where we want to draw it up from. And then when we get kind of lost in the cerebral, like, okay, what does this mean logistically? We're going to go out in a week. What do we have to get done? And all those things. Well, okay, well, where did I feel my energy when I felt really in it? Oh, it was at the soles of my feet. I kind of want to stay there for a couple of breaths and be in this recognition point so that I don't get lost in the humanness of this experience and its perhaps limitations as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Wow.
All of that. Yes. 1,000%. And I love, oh God, this even came up yesterday during my integration session. The idea, it's like the mirror neurons going into effect, right? Like, and just like these beautifully tuned bodies that we are each in, and how like just even allowing that frequency to be noticed and to be named and to like be felt, it's transferred and it's like shared in the space, in the group, and immediately you're feeling it in your feet too. And there's just something so I have no words sometimes. This week has been a lot about that. It's been a lot of like, whoa, like this is crazy and so cool and like, oh my God. And it just makes me so excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I haven't shared this with you yet, Elle, so this is perfect timing. But so often when we're about to go on an adventure together and some, like this retreat coming up, we get the same messages just in very different ways. And so I was telling Ellen, I was like, all these last minute things are coming in, and like I'm just constantly shifting and just ebbing and flowing with the constant changes. And through all of that, all of a sudden yesterday, I had like this whole plan set up about everything I was going to get done. And then the mushrooms called for me to be in full preparation and ritual and like devotional practice for the entire day yesterday. So I was microdosing with the sacred plants, and in this space where it was like everything was crystallizing about what was coming up. But it's exactly like you were just explaining, Elle, where it's like the mirror neurons were sort of turning on, and the message that just kept coming through is like, all you have to do is show up. Like, we're the teachers, we're the guides. And there was just this like just grounded peace around it. And so it's like, I know there's a lot to do and to get done, but I just feel like very soothed and calm about it. And like this experience coming up where normally I might be like overthinking things and like really trying to put specific plans together around, the rituals and the ceremonies. It was sort of like the message that came through was like, let it flow, like let it ebb and flow. And so I just like the process has been so different than I had planned for it to be, but it's been such a beautiful experience because it's just so it's almost like sensual and embodied in a way. It's, I know those are in weird words to use when you're talking about a planning process, but it has been very like it's been very like etheric.
Can I ask, Samantha, why does it feel weird to use the words sensual and embodied in these ways within this context?
I think for me, it's coming from this world that Ellen and I used to be in. I mean, because we were talking about that list of things we wanted to create for our lives, 5 years ago, and we were looking at it and reminiscing about it. And I think taking myself back to that place where everything was sort of the word I don't want to use but always comes up is rigid. Like things for us were very like systematic. There was like always a checklist and like a plan, whereas now everything is like I feel it in my body, like it's intuitive direction being channeled through me. And so it's not really up to me, and there's this sense of just sort of lightness and peace around that, like just knowing that we're held no matter what happens. So it becomes like a very embodied experience.
Absolutely. And if I can ask you the same question that I asked Ellen around if it feels again comfortable for you, where that embodied ease and where that embodied sensuality and that embodied trust rests within your energetic landscape. Are you able to pinpoint it? Does it have a particular texture or flavor or an expression that wants to be seen?
Yeah, it's like an effervescent energy, but at the same time, it's like a density that gets thicker and thicker around my solar plexus sacral and then down to my root. And so it's a very connected with the earth, grounded, but at the same time light and open. And it's almost like I can feel it in my lower chakras, but if I tune out to the edges of my body, like my skin, it's like I can feel that sort of just dissolving into this sort of effervescent lightness, almost like being held.
You know, what I'm feeling with you is a lot of lightness in my shoulders. And what I feel is also happening as you're describing the energy that exists in your body right now is this underlying energy that I'm feeling with you, which is the removal of the rigidity. That identification with the rigidity has shifted out, if even just in this present moment in time, it has shifted out and been replaced with that ever-knowing trust that you are held, that you are supported, that you are protected at all times with as big of a vision as you may have for yourself, for this world. It is being held by so many hands, both seen and unseen at all times. And so this moment, and it feels like such an honor for me, by the way, to share this moment with the both of you, this celebration of your expansion together, and therefore with the collective, like to share this moment in time together is such a gift. It is such a gift to witness the both of you, to witness this energy, the energies that you've transmutated, the energies that you're calling in, the energies that you're living in, and now sharing with the world. It is an honor, and I witness you, and I see you both, and I love you both. I really mean that. There's just love coursing through me for you and for what you're sharing with the world as far as this medicine goes. What a time to be enlivened to it all, really.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
I'm like so like in awe of the divine timing of this
I know.
conversation,
Yeah.
you know, to have it literally 2 or 3 days before we leave. I'm getting full body chills. It like feels so resonant. You know, what I'd love to do is invite you guys both to shut off your cameras. And we're going to keep this entire thing in the edit. For all those who are listening, we're keeping this entire thing. We're starting completely non-traditionally, but the whole thing. All right, so go ahead and shut your cameras off. And then we're just going to ground in. And then everybody, hopefully you're in a place where you can either pull over on the side of the road if you're driving or get into a safe space. But I just invite all of us to just close our eyes gently, to feel our bodies, to feel our legs, to feel our feet connected to the land, connected to our Earth Mother. Inviting all of us together to bring our hands over our hearts. Breathing in deeply here. And just gently sighing that breath of gratitude out to the earth. As we all come into this space together, honoring our Earth Mother. We thank you so much for providing everything we need on this plane. We thank you so much for these bodies, these wise, sensual bodies that we get to experience delight and pleasure in. We thank the sun for the invitation into growth, the invitation into rest, into knowing ourselves, into rooting down into the land, and yet also reaching upward and outward towards the cosmos and the heavens. We thank the ancestors that surround us here, the trees, plants, fungi, rock, water, air. We thank you all for your wisdom, your presence. We thank you for your blessings and the invitations to notice the natural cycles that occur within our bodies and also all around us. And we thank all the ancestors of our lineage, all the healed ones who walk with us and work for the highest good of our infinite essential selves, calling all of them in to surround us here, calling all of them in to be with us, to lend their frequency to this transmission, so that everyone partaking right now in this transmission can feel so held and so loved, so that they can feel the support that is constantly, always, always around them. And we breathe this all in right now, letting these frequencies fill our bodies, receiving this love, receiving this support, closing with the words, and so it is. And whenever you're feeling complete, you may gently open your eyes once more and return. And Sam, I hand it over to you to introduce our guest today, our beautiful, lovely guest.
Thank you, Ellen. That was so beautiful. Wow, we are so excited today for this conversation. And for everyone who's been listening, you got a little bit taste of this magic at the beginning of the episode before this introduction. But we are so thrilled today and honored to be sitting with, in ceremony, Sania Khan, who is a Liberation Artist-Alchemist, elemental somatics guide, futurist, and multimodal storyteller. And Sania guides others and works with them to illuminate pathways for embodied futures where higher consciousness, creativity, pleasure, and liberation merge. And so thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you so much for that incredible opening to this episode. This conversation feels so divinely led, and we're so grateful to have you here.
Wow, I am so incredibly grateful to be here. And again, as I mentioned before, to sit in this moment in time with the both of you, Samantha and Ellen, feels more than cosmic to me. And today has been a day of taking so much inventory over just all the dreams that I'm currently living in. And this is very much one of them. So thank you for being in this core moment in time with me. It is such a privilege to be here.
I'm like smiling so big right now.
I know, me too.
That makes three of us.
I'm cheesing so hard.
Oh man, me too.
We had this incredible first conversation with you, Sania, I think less than a week ago. And I think the thing that stood out to me most about our conversation was the work that you're doing around elemental somatics, which we're going to go into. But I think it's also what struck me is this term embodying futures or embodying futurism. And I would love to kind of start there and begin to unpack what that means and how it looks, what it looks like in practice, especially as you're involved with these incredible groups like Arts Pond in Canada. And, so let's dig in. Whatever comes through is divine. And I just, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So embodied futurism as a concept is very much in its infancy. So, it's something that in its infancy can be really exciting to talk about, but where I like to start is really safety in the body. And the reason being is, as humans, we have our limitations, and as energy, we are infinite. So our bodies are not just, this vessel for the mind, but are actually capable of a depth of intelligence, interconnection, discernment, and sovereignty that are largely untapped by many because of these colonial systems who benefit from our disassociation, right? So when we speak to embodied futures, the first step really is to suggest that in order for us to begin embodying the future, in order for us to even walk through that portal, we first have to start talking about safety in the body. And safety in the body encompasses this meeting point between the human body and the energy body that exists within it, acknowledging that, inherent duality and interconnectedness between our physical form, and then the expansive energy that animates us. So in my practice, when I refer to safety in the body, I'm not only referring to the ways in which we can strengthen, for instance, the body's capacity to regulate the nervous system. I'm also speaking to how we can access the boundless reserves that exist within us, these reserves of creativity, joy, pleasure, sensuality, and imagination that are vibrating in our bodies and want to be expressed in this world with zero limitations, and yet tons of self-assurance. So when we cultivate safety, we're essentially tending to our authentic energetic presence here on earth, a presence that is, rooted in a cosmic knowingness where we recognize our infiniteness. And so when we speak then to embodied futures, we're speaking to, or I'm speaking to in this case, the full embodiment of this cosmic knowingness, this knowingness that we are by nature divine, limitless, ungraspable, and so on. So that need for safety that we all feel, to me, that need for safety is a very cosmic one. It's that feeling of, I want to know that I am fully accepted here, that I can fully exist here as this multidimensional self. And that's where my work comes in, my multidisciplinary work that is oriented toward embodied futurism. It really goes down to, well, if I recognize that my body houses this infinite energy, how can I ensure that I can hold that energy and cultivate that energy from the inside out so that my inherent wisdoms, my inherent cosmic knowingness can be shared with the world with full integrity? That's how I would start to describe embodied futures.
I'm like letting it all sink in right now.
I know.
Because here's the thing that struck me about the way you began and started talking about safety in the body. I feel like so many of us are, it's like what's occurring to me is that we're just focusing on one layer in. And that's not to say that it's not important, right? Like feeling like you can regulate your nervous system, feeling safe enough where you can feel your feelings and not get, completely dysregulated feeling your feelings. But what you're describing is taking that notion of safety down into the core of our existence and why we're even here.
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
to be who we are, right? To embody who we are, to embody this divine spirit within us, and to allow it to show up in the myriad of different ways that it actually does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense why we are still at that first layer, because like I mentioned earlier, we're still in the infancy of embodied futurism, even though there are so many healers, so many people who have been sharing their medicine that are leading us to this future in which there is justice, in which there is love, in which there is harmony. But still, on a collective level, we are only just meeting those healers. We are only just meeting that medicine, that energy. And so I think even in this conversation, the fact that we're getting into the deeper layers that underlie that first one, I think this is very much that portal that is catalyzing a collective kind of renaissance, if you will, to that ancient futurism, where we weave this ancient past into this future again, where we can experience collectively the beauty that comes with leading a truly liberated life together.
Those words feel like magic on my skin.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about like what that work actually looks like, and how you sit with someone who's on this path to finding that liberation?
I really appreciate that wording of when you sit with someone on this path, because I was actually to a friend describing what it feels like to sit with the depth of self that many of us have not allowed ourselves to access. So when I say that, for instance, I mean the depths of shadows that are sitting within us, the depths of shame, the depths of guilt, the depths of fear that we spend so much of our day-to-day lives suppressing, containing, yet still operating from, right? And that's where that first layer of nervous system regulation is so key here, is most of us, the masses, are operating with perpetually dysregulated nervous systems. And that is jarring in a number of ways, for a number of reasons. And for me, with this work and its intertwinement with embodied futurism, why it's especially alarming in that sense is, how can we even begin to move toward these futures that we are talking about, that we're visualizing, if we don't even know what those experiences feel like in our body? So when I ask people, for instance, in fact, the first time I was ever asked what safety feels like in my body was December of last year. And I have complex PTSD. I'm also a survivor. So you would think that safety in the body would have come up for me much sooner, because I've been doing this work within myself for a number of years now. But to be asked that question by my cannabis meditation facilitator, Colette Ilosha, was disarming. It was a catalyst for me in many ways. It's one of the reasons I'm even doing this work. But it really, to me, showed that there is this huge gap that exists between our understanding of ourselves on a human level and then our understanding of ourselves on an energetic level. And that gap can be closed in when we start to center safety in the body. So what that can look like on an immediate level is the question that I ask when I'm facilitating, for instance, spaces that call safety back into the body, is I start with a question of like, what does it feel like? What does safety in your body feel like? And more often than not, the responses that I get are, here's what it doesn't feel like. I know what it feels like to feel, right? To feel fear in my body, to feel anxious, to feel these non-affirmative feelings. I'm much more familiar with that than I am with safety. And that's an important layer, because that is you giving language to the parameters of safety that you may not have yet experienced, but you're in the know about. Like, at least I know what doesn't feel safe. And then from there, when we can establish what those parameters feel like, we take it a layer deeper. And normally what I do in this moment in time is, this is all through meditation, and then also that kind of verbal dialoguing, which is a good place to start off with, because as a practitioner, as a trauma-informed practitioner, I need to ensure that I'm setting up these principles for the person in front of me to feel ready to go into that space within themselves. Because the last thing I want to do is cause any form of inadvertent harm in that kind of self-introspection, because again, safety to me is the baseline of all things. So through that identification process, we then go into the feeling self, that feeling self that is now able to name some of what is going on, some of it probably why that is the way that it is. So for instance, if we were to talk about where that fear comes from, where that guilt comes from, dialoguing can help with that. But beyond just naming it, for me, what's most important is simply feeling it, simply feeling where that energy feels tight, where it feels dense, where it feels like it's been lingering for far too long. Because I think we have, on a particularly Western scale, a hyper fixation on language as the only legitimate tool through which we can validate an experience. But so much of the human experience, when melded with the energetic experience, is ineffable. How are we meant to give words to the energy that courses through us when it's beyond what words could possibly ever encapsulate? And that's where somatic connection comes in, because when we start to validate, truly witness, and tend to the energies that live within us beyond simply dialoguing about them, where we get to move them through our bodies through experiences like meditation, like breath work, like movement, as just a few of the many modalities we can use, then we get to see that, oh my God, wait, this worked without me having to put language to it. You know, I understand it deeper with much more clarity without having to do so through this cerebral framework that I have been told in this very colonial apparatus is the only way a thing can be validated. So that's kind of,
Yes.
the beginnings of it. Mm-hmm.
You are so speaking my
Mhm.
language because I find like I'm currently getting my certification in this modality that sounds exactly like what you're describing. It's called transpersonal energy healing, but it's essentially trauma training, you know, and really dropping into the body to dialogue with the body and to describe what the sensations actually are. And you know, so much of I realize people that sometimes come to me for medicine work, you know, medicine journeys, have gone through years and years and years of talk therapy, and it's like they know the stories, and yet the charge is still in the body, still stuck, still stored there, you know.
It's
And
like it's rehearsed,
it's
conditioned in.
rehearsed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not where the experience is. The experience doesn't
Hmm.
happen in the head, you know? And so it's just so like validating and just what I'm feeling right now in my body is a huge relief to hear you put words to this in ways that I haven't been able to language it myself. And it's really powerful.
And I credit that entirely to the, again, going back to that whole idea of ancient futurism. What I'm doing in my practice is merely giving language to, in my own unique way, the practices that have existed long before me, practices that care to be in right relationship with the natural world, with the unseen world, and that many of us, through perhaps our own ancestral practices, through our own travels, through our own studentship, are able to tap deeper into for our own selves, are able to weave with our own teachings and learnings and life experiences, and then have conversations like this one that catalyze so much more than we could possibly even imagine. So really all of that is to say, Ellen, that like you've had this language for so long and you've shared it and continue to share it in such profound ways. And what we're doing in this moment in time is really layering energetically onto that sharing so that it can rise with full force and be then digested by other energy bodies who are perhaps listening in right now and can feel for themselves the lightness that comes with knowing that they are valid in their energetic experience here. No matter how messy, no matter how sticky, no matter how incomprehensible all of this is, we're valid because we are simply here together.
Yeah. You know, as you are speaking, what I'm kind of feeling into, and please correct me if I'm kind of off in any way, but even the notion of embodying futures or embodying futurism, it's like, give me a moment because I'm trying to find my words with this, but it feels almost like what we're doing on an individual level, learning how to be with our bodies and to listen to our bodies and accept all aspects of this human life through our senses, you know, through our sensations and the sort of felt experience of this human life. Until we're able to feel it and to name it, we're unable to really kind of move forward in our own lives, right? We're unable to really kind of carve out a path for where it is that we want to use our energy or bring our energy into this like this material world, right? This sort of like tangible world. And so on a more collective level, as we're sort of bringing all of our hearts and our bodies together and imagining the kind of systems that we would want to create to essentially hold this compassion and love for all of us, and to allow that to kind of fuel us on a grand scale. It's, I guess what I'm saying is that it's almost like the idea of embodying futures is kind of coming from, it's like a macro output of like what it is that we're doing on an individual level as we heal.
Absolutely. You nailed it. And it's precisely that, where, what if we were to redesignate essentially our ideals of this future that we have been talking about on a collective level, in so many different ways, a future in which apparently we finally experience the justice that we are hoping to experience on a grand scale. We finally experience the depths of love that we have been yearning for on a collective level, and so on. How can we redesignate our ideals of this just future away from this arbitrary endpoint and instead call it into the present moment? What would that look like? And what would that feel like? And that's so much of where my practice around embodied futurism rests upon. Is I essentially want to catalyze through my visual storytelling, through my digital futurism work, through my my somatic practices and healing work, this idea of feeling into the future, becoming it on a visceral, sensorial level, where there is no difference now between the energy that you have designated in the future and that you're trying to call in with your hand reaching forward. There's no difference between that and the energy that lives within you now. And it takes a moment, like even earlier on in our conversation, there was this almost surprise element, Ellen, to what you shared about how you feel in this present moment in time, that rootedness, that groundedness. And similarly, Samantha, that kind of shift in energy from what you once had experienced as far as the lead up to a trip like this goes, and what you're experiencing in this present moment. And that surprise is delight. It's the delight in knowing that we were open enough to be shifted into this unbecoming self, the unbecoming of the narratives, the paradigms, the frameworks that did not serve us, that we were in tune with, and that we now get to shift outside of, and in that process, step into a kind of, again, magical moment in time, and this being the retreat that you're about to go on. Like, there's a reason why you're feeling this, just as you're about to offer your medicine on such a wide scale, because it takes this clear capacity to, and this cleared energy to host the kind of channeled messaging, the channeled wisdoms and medicines that we want to and need to bring into this world for it to shift so vastly, because we're doing this work on such a grand scale. And so it only makes sense that if the universe is expressing itself through us, that it would also want us to clear out as much of this dense energy that does not serve us, in order to kind of move through our beings that divinity, that infiniteness that actually serves our aligned futures.
100%. Yes, that's exactly, yeah. It's like, I feel like we were being prepared, especially this week and in this very new way. First of all, I just have to say, I love the way in which you use language.
Yes, me too. It's like storytelling. It's so magical.
It's lyrical. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a poeticness to it that I'm just like, oh my God, you're like writing poetry and explaining such complex ideas. I'm like kind of blown away.
And can I just say something about that? Because I've been in that awareness pretty much my whole life. And what I always thought, and this is something that Julia Cameron actually writes in The Artist's Way, about how those of us who were tuned into our artistic expressions as forms of medicine. For me, one of my artistic expressions that is medicine is the work that I do through my throat chakra. I know the medicine that language carries for me personally, and I know the impact that it has had on all the kinds of souls I've come across. But what happens is when we are in this matrix, what is inherently artistic, creative forms of expressive medicine ends up being diluted to become pretty much operationalized in the matrix. So where I knew I had this command over language that felt very medicinal from the start, the way it was always read by my parents, by the school education system that I was in was, oh, you have what it takes to be a politician. You have what it takes to be a lawyer. You can take this experience of knowing what you want to say with clarity and conviction. And instead of becoming, let's say, a writer, or instead of using this language as a healing modality, you can use it to command large audiences and kind of go into this this hierarchy that we need you for. And so to be in this present moment in time where I got to, again, unbecome all of those things is to me such a full circle moment, because this really is my throat chakra being a channel, and it feels so much lighter to my nervous system than any of those years of thinking that, you know, being in the systems to change the systems was what I had to do to make a greater impact. So thank you for affirming that. That really means a lot to me.
I mean, honestly, even the way that you speak about that, it's like this incredible moment in time that is worth so much celebration and acknowledgement. And it also, in so many ways, parallels the work that you do with others around elemental somatics. It's really beautiful. It's like calling your power back, calling your, and to your, yeah, I think you used the words calling your inner sovereignty back, which is so beautiful. And it really like, it's almost like you've been able to move into this space where outside of the labels and the names and the language and the expectations that are coming toward you and the energy that's coming toward you, you were able to, from the inside out, shape it before it got to your energy field. It's like, it's hard to explain because it's like what I'm seeing is very like, it's like wild. It's like wind. It's like you're shaping energy as it's coming towards you and just changing its form and its meaning, and then magnifying it out in like this beautiful healing way, which is so resonant with the work that you do.
You can't see me right now, Samantha, but I have both my palms open on my lap, just receiving every kind of fiber of love that you've poured into your words just now. And I would say you have also intensely gifting medicine in your throat chakra as well, because this is not the first time that I have felt that sense of belonging when receiving your words. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what I will also say to that is, this is where, again, soma becomes so important. And when I say somatics, to just break it down briefly here, soma is anything to do with the body. And so somatics is therefore any practice, any tool, any modality that you then use to tap into your body's intelligence. And when you use words, I think you mentioned boundaries at some point. For me, I didn't even know what boundaries in action or boundaries in presence felt like. I knew what it looked like. I knew how, it's very much in the therapized language of the current times to speak about boundaries, to speak about discernment. But when we don't know what these words feel like, then there is very little integration that is happening between our neurological pathways and then our energies that are able to actually put that information into practice. And Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot in terms of, how we can actually meld the gaps between the selves that know better and the selves that want to do better. And it goes into understanding, okay, where do my boundaries rest, for example? Where can I establish and maintain these parameters of how to be experienced by the world and how I also want to experience what the world, what does that feel like? What does my discernment feel like? Where currently is my energy going, where it does not feel like it's light to my nervous system right now? Where do I feel magnetically pulled to that I'm not giving attention to right now? You know, these are some of the questions that can, when tapped into, bring us closer to having a sense of these words rather than just conceptualizing them from the outside in.
I feel like what you just shared right now, boundaries have been coming up so much ever since this last Scorpio lunar eclipse. And it's not to say that they haven't, obviously it's a big topic that we always talk about in some form or another, boundaries and consent. But I feel like ever since that eclipse, there's just been so much that I'm noticing around energy usage and what you were just saying about like the discernment of how do you channel that energy? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? And for me, the way it's looking like also is kind of what I was describing to both of you before we hit record. It's like, even though there's something really beautiful and juicy and amazing coming through in this retreat, and it's a moment of celebration, I'm kind of experiencing this now as like a harnessed energy versus an explosive energy, the way I used to before. And in the previous way, it feels like the energy would disperse outward and I would experience kind of this dip, this like a few days, maybe even a week of mild depression, so to speak, of like, it's like the thing arrived, it came and it went, and now I'm like, whereas this time I feel like with all the things that have been sort of coming through, it's more of a sustained energy that's just continuing to drive me forward or to fuel me into the next thing. And I feel like I'm learning how to negotiate with my energy in a new way that doesn't feel the same as before, but it's everything to do with boundaries, and how do I not manipulate, but how do I harness it? Even the stuff that gets you really excited and you feel a lot of that energy behind you, kind of pushing you forward. Even that, it's like, oh wow, I'm learning how to almost kind of like turn the knob down in a way where I can like focus it, and not let it kind of completely explode out of me. It's fascinating.
Yeah. The only words I could come up for that, because I've been feeling something very similar, was like peaceful and soothing, because it's just this very like soft movement forward. And
yes.
Also, just the crazy synchronicities. I spent maybe 2 hours yesterday talking about this exact thing. Specifically, I referenced Joe Dispenza, and I was talking about how we can like bring what we want to create through our energy, and like why it's so important to not just establish like articulate boundaries in this, sort of 3D realm, but energetic boundaries as well. Like, where are you willing to create space to make room for something else? Where are you not aligned, and where is like that depletion going? And like through the recognition of where it is and what you want it, where you want it to go, it just shifts because it's energy. And so it's so crazy that we were having this conversation. You're literally talking about it exactly again right now. The universe, man.
Always.
Sania, it kind of brings me back to what you were talking about too, when we were talking about your voice and the way in which you use language, like you choosing a different path for that energy, your voice, your, what you have to offer through your throat chakra. like choosing a path that's not traditional, or not what I would say the world would have thought that you should use it in. I think I forgot exactly how you phrased it, but like not believing that you had to be in the system in order to change the system, something to that effect. And like, I kind of want to bring us back there, because I feel like there's something really potent in that idea of, it really is you harnessing your energy and using it in a different way that's bringing about that kind of embodied future that you're wanting to create, that you're wanting the world to create. I don't know. There's something that feels so resonant about that.
100%. I would say not even that I'm wanting to create, I'm in it. We are in it.
Yeah.
The future is in this present moment. And it's when, again, there's something to be said about when we relocate the future to a present awareness that allows us to be in right relationship with what we need to be in right relationship with in order to expand into this present moment. And I want to circle back to that in just 1 second, but I wanted to first of all say to the both of you that I said this when we got on our first call last week, that for all the nerves that I had and all those feelings of, I'm meeting these two spirits who are medicinal in such profound ways, who I don't know on a human level. So I wonder what this interaction is going to be like. And then within 2 minutes of that interaction, feeling the level of ease, feeling the level of love, feeling the level of support. I had said to a friend afterward, like, it blew me away how much you were both rooting for me without even knowing me fully on a human level. And what I sensed from the beginning, and what I'm hearing now even deeper as far as both of your reflections go around what you've designated as boundary keeping, but what I'm hearing more than that is integration. And integration, especially as a somatics tool, is very much underutilized, because integration is essentially the process of bringing together and harmonizing the multiplicities that exist within ourselves, no matter how contradictory. It's holding all aspects of ourselves with the same level of respect. It's saying the parts of me that I'm most proud of in this moment, and the parts of me that I still carry deep sadness, trauma, pain, grief around, I'm willing to hold them with my hands folded in prayer and with the utmost love for, and that balanced relationship that we then create with all aspects of ourselves that are present in any moment in time, that balanced energy reads so palpably to the outside world. And it's what I felt with the both of you then, it's what I feel with you now and evermore, because our energies again are infinite. So I want to hold with my hands to my heart just so much gratitude to each of you for deciding for yourselves that integration was something that you were going to incorporate in the many years that you have spent in this podcasting journey, in connection with so many people in such intimate ways, because without that integration, we do end up operating with that airiness, but without that rootedness that comes from the earth within. And so that energy can then be pretty lucid in nature, and lucid energy, it to me feels like energy is getting poured in, but it's also leaking out just as fast.
That was like the first 2 years of my journey, just constantly floating around the ethers.
Yeah, it takes that. It takes that,
Oh
because
my
it's so
God.
yummy. It's so yummy to exist up there. But when we're like, oh, actually, I want this to now be a sustained experience of life, that's when we call in the root chakra, that energy from beneath the soils of this earth to hold our expansion. Otherwise, it'll get lost in translation, in essence. And to go back earlier to what you had said, Ellen, around that kind of experience of shifting outside of the old paradigms of self-understanding to the current ones, similar to the both of you, I left the world that I thought I was going to be living in quite literally 3 years ago. And that world was very much that of international human rights law and really pursuing law and academia and advocacy through the idea of I had to do so within the systems. And it had always felt intuitive for me personally to challenge injustice. And this is directly connected to embodied futures, right? Because the bedrock of embodied futurism suggests that injustice cannot be the only way through which we view our relationship to this world. There has to be more than just fighting against the oppressors and then experiencing the traumas that come with being in constant fight mode on a literal nervous system level. There has to be more than that. And I didn't fully grasp that until very recently. I was a youth activist by age 18, and I was doing a lot of university and citywide organizing for years. Interestingly, I also started traveling solo at age 18 as well, which piqued my interest in international human rights. So my first international traveling experience outside of visiting family in Pakistan was a research trip to Palestine, where I'd witnessed firsthand the apartheid endured by Palestinians every day. And that trip at 18 had really cemented for me the long-held aspiration that I'd had to advocate for justice on the widest scale possible. So, by age 23, I was the youngest person working at the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario. And then at age 24, I received the Chevening Scholarship by the British High Commission and went on to study at Edinburgh University, where I received my Master's of Law. And so I was really set on this path of I am going to change these systems from the inside out. But then as I delved deeper into the study of human rights law in particular, it became evident to me that, while law as a mechanism is meant to protect and uphold rights while establishing this supposed universal framework for justice, it's far too often wielded as a tool of oppression, especially against historically marginalized groups. So as I was kind of seeing through the veil while learning about these veils through the inside out, I, for my master's thesis, decided to deviate away from, law as the central focal point entirely. And instead, my research focused on a pathway toward collective justice that is largely overlooked in the international human rights world. And it was essentially the politics of memory. And the politics of memory suggests that there's this complex interplay between injustice, memory, and reconciliation. So when we're exploring this dynamic, we're exploring how memory, how trauma, how injustice is stored and passed along in our body landscapes. And when I started exploring the human body as this landscape that houses ancestral memory, stories, and trauma, I then also this is through my master's thesis alone, so I'm doing this very cerebrally. I also was exploring, if this is a place that hosts all of these experiences, surely this is also where we get to access intergenerational healing and collective liberation, because the sacred duality of it all, right? You can find all experiences in one place if you look deep enough. And because my focus was on the 1947 partition of India and Pakistan, I was for the first time reaching toward my own memory body and reaching into the stories that were living within my cellular memory. And through that exploration of ancestral trauma and memory, first through this degree and then through somatics, it just became more than evident to me that there are stories, medicines, wisdoms, whole life experiences that are being passed down through our cellular and genetic selves that we have no idea about. So how can we come closer into that depth of understanding so that we can recreate these historical paradigms, that kind of recreation of history repeats itself. Well, how do we make it stop then? If that repetition is no longer serving us? Well, we can definitely fight our way through these systems, through these paradigms, 100%. I know I did that for almost the entirety of my life. But then we're constantly in dis-ease. We're constantly just trying to survive through the next day. And that is no way for our divinity to express itself here. Where is the play? Where is the joy? Where is the pleasure in all of this? There has to be more of that. And in turning the ship to go in that direction, so much makes sense, so much more than any of this research possibly ever could, because it is felt. And the felt selves that are often completely misunderstood or relegated to the sides, the felt selves is where we can access so many more of the answers that we've positioned to the external world than we give ourselves. Just the ability to know and the ability to realize. So that's again where embodied futurism comes in, is we want to be so clear with what our body is communicating to us, not just on a visceral level, but that energetic level, the stories that it's communicating to us, the answers, all of it. And from that communication, we then meet in this way, and that communication becomes enlivened. It's given this charge to exist in the world for the better, always for the better.
I feel like I have to say thank you right now.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, it's like knowing your path and your very conscious choice to deviate from that path. I could see this alternate universe where you are this incredibly successful, lauded, like international human rights lawyer,
Yeah, I can see that so too.
like doing all the things and like really kind of with a huge support underneath you, and like, and yet it's like, ugh, God, it's like, I feel it so deeply in my heart. I'm so grateful to witness who you are and to have witnessed the choices that you made, because you weren't going after, let me rephrase that. It's like you saw through the bullshit. You know what I mean? And you saw through the probably the egoic kind of like path that could have been your life, to really kind of change course and use your like incredibly beautiful gifts and skills and talent and knowledge and wisdom to like hit it from the other side, you know what I mean? From a way that actually does way more and gets way further than the traditional route. I just like, I don't know, I just feel so I'm just filled with such gratitude right now and such hope to witness you and to hear your story, because in a similar, like it's just slightly similar, but it resonates with me so deeply, because there was a point in time in which I was considering going down the path of becoming a therapist after getting into this path and becoming a breathwork coach, thinking that I needed that validation, and choosing instead to actually like consciously not go there, because I realized that that model, that system was rooted in essentially like patriarchal oppression and white supremacy. And so for me, I realized I can be of service in such a deeper way by paving my own path and choosing the experiences that I want to have, and sharing my heart in this way. And it's I don't know, I just have such incredible mad respect for the decisions that you have made that have put you on this path now, because it's changing the world, literally. I feel like
Yeah,
this conversation is changing the world.
I know. I just feel like I don't even ever want it to end because there's so much wisdom that you're sharing, and it's just like, it's really deep and authentic. And I think it's resonating so deeply, especially for me, because I don't know any other way to say it other than like you can feel that it's truth and that it's like there's an intangible power behind these gifts that you're sharing with the world, that it's like we can't even begin to imagine how much you're going to change the world, but it's happening, and it's happening in such an incredibly beautiful way.
Oh my goodness. First of all, my lip was quivering at several points, and I'm going to have the juiciest cry after this. Just fully receiving with so much gratitude this level of deep witnessing for so much of what I'm here to do. And at the very same time, every single word that you have so generously poured into my heart, I can 1000% say right back at the both of you. And that's why I keep using the word, honor, because it feels so like I just want to bow my head down to the universe for co-conspiring with us to just hold this present moment in time, in which it seems like more than anything else, there's just this depth of gratitude for our sacred deviance and for all the choices that we made that went against the grain, no matter how easy at times it was to go with it. Those choices have culminated into this present moment where there is just such shared softness, shared adoration, shared self-assurance that we are doing what we are meant to do here. The contracts that our souls had signed, we are in them right now. And this celebration, I think, is so important to name, not just for our individual and collective selves, but for that greater frequency of sovereignty. Like so much of exploring one's sovereignty is to celebrate it when it is experienced, when it is felt. And these systems require us to always be in subconscious competition with each other, or to do that comparison act, or to do that self deprecating questionnaire of, am I doing enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I deserving enough? That we simply do not ritualize these moments in time as much as we should. And this moment in time with the both of you really feels like the ceremony, and you called it that, Samantha, as soon as we opened the call, this is a ceremony of what it feels like to embody our sovereignty, and how in doing so we are literally in the future that we keep talking about, that we've named several times over, in which there is this shared respect, not just for ourselves, not just for each other, but for this collaboration that is existent all around us. Like right now, I feel like I'm in this ecological web of fucking like love. It just feels like love.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh my
That was
God.
amazing.
Yes. It's like, oh my God. It just gives me so much it's like tingly hope, And like I'm realizing every time we have these kinds of conversations with incredible people, incredible souls, I find myself sometimes like hovering above the conversation going, okay, why did this happen? You know what I mean? Like what was the thing that needed to be communicated and felt and expressed? And I feel like when I'm kind of hovering above this conversation, looking at the three of us in this container, and just, and all the people who are listening right now to this transmission, I'm realizing this conversation is permission to deviate, permission to carve your own path, permission to, choose the not easy choice, and to to really be in your body, you know, find a way to like heal so that you can feel your feelings, be embodied, and move from that space of groundedness to choose what is truly resonant for you and not what the world is telling you you need to choose, you know? And the thing is, it's like if you choose the world's way or the systems in place, like you will most likely live a very successful life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
for
it'll be very
Mhm.
comfortable, most likely.
comfortable,
Mhm.
successful, all the metrics used, you know, to measure a life lived well, you know what I mean, by our world standards. And yet there's something that is completely, you know, I've never been able to find the words for, but it is truly a somatic feeling. It's just something in the
Hmm.
body that's just like, no, you can't go that way. It's
Yeah, this
it's
isn't your
not for
path.
Mhm.
you, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, oh God, I'm just grateful for this conversation right now so much.
Wow, I fucking love that. That whole idea of like that collective permission slip that we get to experience when we trust our sacred rebellious selves, our sacred deviant selves are just that, sacred, you know, because we have, going back to that whole thing around language, these words have been, again, through these very normative structures, we tend to operationalize these words in relation to that which no one should do, or you're going to receive consequences for doing. You do not want to deviate. You do not want to rebel, because trust that you will face the consequences. And I remember the first time I ever broke a cardinal rule based off of how I was supposed to act. I was 9 years old and I had a crush on this one kid in school. And three-way calling was a thing then. So one
Oh
of
my
my
God, I
best
remember
yeah.
that.
So one of my best friends, she had called him and I was secretly on the call as well. And she had asked him if he liked me back. And when he said yes, she said to him, well, you should ask her to be your girlfriend. To which he responded, well, I heard that Muslims, because I was raised in a conservative Muslim household, he responded, I heard Muslims can't have boyfriends and girlfriends, was that language. And I remember sitting on that call silently. I still remember what I was wearing. Like, you know, those core memories in which you take a
Mm,
snapshot of that moment in
yeah.
time. You're like, I know
Yes.
this is going to be important. And I
Yes.
still remember sitting on the edge of my parents' bed and she pretends to call me. She's like, you know what? I'll get back to you. So she hangs up on him and she asks me, is it true that Muslims can't date? And according to many practices, there is this idea that it's considered optimal in terms of modesty to withhold from dating just because of the potential things that can happen in that relationship and ideas around purity and modesty and so on. So I knew that it was forbidden for me. But I remember in that moment deciding that I was going to lie and say, oh, no, we're totally allowed. It's totally fine. And when I did just that, and the earth didn't open from underneath me, I wasn't swallowed up by hellfire itself. And it actually gave me this tingly surge of energy. I remember smiling and being like, whatever this is, I like it. And I kind of want more of it. And that led me to realize that there was nothing inherently wrong with my deviance from the very beginning. And as challenging as it continues to be, it is still very, very hard and at times very lonesome. You know, Samantha, you mentioned, you know, there's an alternate timeline. Or I believe, Ellen, you mentioned this, the alternate timeline in which there's another version of me that exists. I believe that for all of us, that those times in which we're, let's say we're feeling particularly lonely for a particular life experience that is not in our presence in this moment in time, that could possibly be that we are connected to an alternate timeline in which that reality is playing out.
Oh my God,
And
I tell myself that when I get into those spaces. I'm like, well, in some
yes,
universe, in some dimension, it is happening. So everything is good.
exactly. Exactly. And so that also allows you to stay in your sacred deviance, you know, to say, on that alternate timeline, I see you following the rules. I see you thriving in your own way, and high five to you. But I'm going to stick around here where I'm at, because I know that for this timeline, this is the medicine that I'm meant to share with the world. And this medicine requires softening into my deviance. And I think softening is a really operative word here. And it's the energy, again, that I feel so held by with each of you, is our softening indicates to us that we're willing to rest in our sacred yes energy, in that balanced, harmonious energy in which we are surrendering to receiving. We're here to receive as much as we're here to give. We're here to be in constant collaboration from an ease-filled space. Like, I want as many people, again, who are listening to this, who are in their sacred deviance, to know that you are supported in your ease. And your ease is as much of your birthright as all other human experiences that you maybe perhaps have over-identified with up until this point. Things like suffering, things like fear, things like not enoughness. These are so deeply woven into the fabric of the matrix. And so as you soften into your expansion, I just want you to be able to rest in the knowing that you're supported not only by other souls who want to experience you in your sovereignty and expansion and will celebrate you for exactly that. You are also held and supported by your benevolent ancestors, both human and cosmic. You're supported by this ecology that you're within and surrounded by, this ecosystem of, again, the natural world, the unseen world, that also wants the best for you. And then you're ultimately supported by this most vast, infinite energy that is our reason for being here, that also wants the best for you. And if you can hold this knowledge in your body as often as possible, revisiting it as often as possible, sustaining it, cultivating it with tenderness, you'll see that match up with your life experiences. And suddenly you are living in that prayer. You are living in that dream. And you're sitting there with total ease, being like, yo, I was always supposed to be here. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I fucking love you.
I know. I'm like, can you come to my house and tell me bedtime stories, please? This is like, I cannot get enough.
Oh my God. Sania, I truly have no words. Like, this is like such a beautiful way to, for me personally, like for Sam and I personally, to like enter into this Costa Rica retreat and to actually close out our spring season of Woo-Noo, like with this send off, Oh my God, I just tingles all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And for me as well, I cannot tell you what it feels like to be so aware of how enriching this moment in time feels in all ways of the word. Like, every version of me, every age that exists within me, and every self that has existed to date is in complete and utter gratitude for this very moment. And just, I feel like I have to say this on behalf of everyone who gets to receive each of your medicines, the deepest, most heartfelt, not only gratitude, but awe for how each of you separately and together are honoring your divine contract here. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of not only this podcast, not only your work, but how you're choosing to show up to this world. And so for all of that, for every ounce of effort and also effortlessness that has taken place up until this point, know that I see you, know that I truly cannot be in greater awe of all of it. And to be in this moment, receiving it and exchanging this energy, and then also making it wider and grander on a collective level, is and will always be how I remember that I'm on exactly the path that I'm here to be on. So thank you in the grandest way of the word. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and like truly deeply felt, and also shared right back to you. I mean, like, what a special moment this is. Like, I just, words aren't enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to just close the sacred space and just invite us all just to hold this frequency in our bodies right now as we just gently close our eyes, bringing our hands over our hearts, holding that gratitude, holding that awe, that permission to soften into our deviance, which is absolutely going to be the name of this podcast episode. And just breathing all of this wonderfulness, all of this juiciness, this yumminess in. We are just so thankful once again, dear Earth Mother, Sun, ancestors of land and lineage. So grateful to the seen and the unseen forces that hold us. So grateful for this moment of affirmation that we are each walking the paths that we are here to walk. We thank you. We thank you so much. And we breathe in all of this support and love, honoring that it is ever present, honoring that honoring our sovereignty, and honoring our prosperity that is here, honoring the future that is already here. Closing with the words, and so it is.
I love you both so very much. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Sam and I are signing off for the summer, but we'll be back again this fall with more new, expansive conversations that challenge and gently push against our sticky edges, inviting us into new ways of being in this world. In the meantime, you can work with us privately. Sam is a brilliantly gifted integrative energy therapist and entheogenic medicine facilitator. If you'd like to experience her medicine and work with her, please reach out to her at involutionhealing.com. That's INVOLUTION healing.com. I just launched my 12-week Live and Die Free private mentorship program. It's a tailored, bespoke experience for you rebel changemakers that want to be liberated from fear to fully step into your purposeful service. Together, we bravely face your fears by working with powerful tools like breathwork, plant medicine, ancestral and inner child somatic root healing, so that you can gently confront the blocks that keep you bound and paralyzed from taking the steps to realize your dreams. Every fear is a fear of death, so this program intends to support you as you reclaim your power and voice so that you can leave this life with no regrets. I only offer 6 spots each season, so book your free discovery call now at tripwithellen.com. Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.